Hey guys, welcome back. Another live show, another live Chino's Arsenal. Second time of the day. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Like Josh said, thank you guys so much for convincing me to watch the game. Because I would have missed an all-timer. 5-4. Spain was up like 5-1 and then somehow let that lead slip. I mean, like D Shadow was saying as well, like the level of talent that both of these nations have is just ridiculous. Like, I'm not saying that, other top nations like Portugal and Germany and these places in England don't have talent, but I just think Spain and France are just that level higher. The depth that they can go on with their benches and just keep going on. And it's just a level of talent that I just feel like we're so lucky to be watching. So thank you so much for convincing me to watch it. Obviously there's transfer news. So I want to make sure that we get to the KEPA stuff, the Rodrygo stuff, and the Rodgers stuff. But I also just want to just kind of talk a little bit about the game, just for people that actually watched it, and most importantly, how you guys felt about Zubamendi and how you guys felt about Nico Williams. More of the Zubamendi stuff versus Nico Williams, but I saw a lot of Arsenal fans giving him praise, and that's fine, but I do think that he's been largely maybe underrated in our fan base because he's a DM or somebody that plays at the base of midfield. I think it was pretty obvious what he can add to this team in this game. And when he plays with Sociedad, he just plays with a team that's just doesn't have those same type of tactics and players around him. But if he has good players around him that are making those runs, he can definitely pick a pass. He can definitely speed up play. He did not look out of, he didn't look strange or like he's not supposed to be there in a midfield with Pedri. He's just a really, really good player. He's just very good. I felt like I focused quite a bit on Zuby. And then I also focused a lot on Nico Williams. And so with Zuby, I just feel like we'll just have to wait and see how he is when he's with us, pending medical and all that kind of stuff. But if you couldn't see it today, I don't know if you'll see it. I don't know if you'll see it if you didn't see it today, because I just feel like it was very clear what he brings to this. He'll bring to this team. Now, in regards to Nico, Nico Williams is just a tricky 1v1 fun winger to watch. Like, I just don't see how people don't see how that would upgrade our left wing when we know what our options are there. He's faster, he's trickier, he has a better footballing IQ, he has a better pass on him. He's just better. Like, I just don't know what to tell you guys. And sometimes it's not just about the GA, it's about the tools in the toolbox that you have at your disposal. And he just can do so much. I bet you there's nobody sitting on a podcast talking about Nico Williams and laughing like the Jed Spence was when they were asking him about Martinelli. No offense to Martinelli, but he just is so limited. But I do think Nico Williams is quality. So I don't know if we'll get him, but he's really, really, really good. He would be perfect for us. He would be perfect for us. Him and Saka would absolutely cook. In terms of Marino, I think you saw pretty much the best qualities for Marino and the worst qualities all wrapped in one. I love Marino, and I think that he's a good player and has done good things for us this season. But the further he is away from our goal, the better. I think he had two really bad moments in the early phases of build-up for Spain where, I think Mbappe nicked the ball off of him twice and they really should have scored. But then you saw what he did when he was in the 10 position or second striker, where those 1-2 fast movements, 1-2 fast 2 passes and into the box and then finishing is kind of his bread and butter. So I think if he's more of the second striker cam, he's much better than when he's deeper in the two. And you saw throughout the game that it was actually Pedri and Zubamendi that were deeper in the two, and Marino was a little bit higher up. When they switched positions and Marino was deeper, he got caught more than once, you know. So yeah, it was interesting. It really, really was. But there's just so much talent. And then, we're watching these Nations League games and we're also looking at players that are going to end up at rivals, Mike Mignon is probably going to end up at Chelsea. And then you have somebody like Cherki who came in and really changed the game for France. That's going to be a Manchester City player. And so you see kind of what we're up against. Personally, I think, Cherki is a really, really good player. It's just not the type of player that I ever felt like Mikel would go for. And that's really unfortunate. I really do think like Wenger would have been on the phone and had him at Arsenal already. But Arteta does not go for flair players, and there's no excuse. Even if you have Odegaard in the team, you could use more than one creative midfielder. This was the first season ever that we've had only one, so um no real excuse there. There's still some good attacking midfielders out there on the market, the Xavi Simons, Eze, and the types of players that could give us a little bit of that X factor and that little bit of like that extra stuff. But you know, it's unfortunate. You just know City are going to be able to replace that Kevin De Bruyne effect with a combination of Reinders and Cherki, and Arsenal really need to make sure that they re-up and make sure that their team is beefed up as Liverpool's and City's to be able to compete, because they're talking about the types of players that can make something out of nothing. That pass in from the wing to Cherki, he just popped it up and just kicked it in the back of the net with his left foot. Like, it just wasn't, it wasn't an intricate goal or anything like that. And so, yeah, I think that you could see what we're going to be up against in the Prem next season between last game and this game. And, because obviously, Wirtz played yesterday. And I would say, just like on like just a regular note too, that City are probably laughing right now, because it's not that I don't rate Wirtz or I don't think Wirtz is good. I do. But if you could get Cherki for 30 million and Wirtz costs 100 and something million, I just think that you got the better deal. I don't see that big of a gap between the two of them, if I'm honest. For what you're trying to get, goals and assists and things like that. City are laughing. They are absolutely laughing right now. And I want to be laughing too, So I'm happy that, you know, we had one of the ballers out there, because I just knew that if Zubamendi had a mare, there would have been fail comps out there from Arsenal fans and rivals, because he's coming to us. But I think the only thing, besides the fact that, Cherki was really good, and, obviously we got a good little glimpse of Barcola as well. And obviously Lamine Yamal is a joy to watch. We have a really good player, that's coming to Arsenal. So, yeah, let's read some of the comments before we get into transfer news. Jagoon says Liverpool got fleeced. Johnny says, of course, they got the better deal. Shamara says, facts, Liverpool will be kicking themselves low key. Gent says 130 million for Wirtz is crazy work. I think, it's not that I think there's so much between the two, but when you look at the fact that there's not a big gap between the two of them, it's really not, you know what I mean? Like, Wirtz is definitely, I feel like, has more of the PR behind him. I think Cherki has a lot less, because he didn't play at a team that won the league and all that kind of stuff, right? And Wirtz is like the crown jewel for Germany, where France have a crown jewel in Mbappe. So they're not really like pumping up the other players like that. I mean, the amount of good players that they have in Desire Doué and Cherki and Olise, and it's just really about Mbappe, and even Dembele doesn't get that much love, right? But I just feel like that's a much better deal. It's wild. AD says, not gonna lie, Barcola was not great today. I think you see with Barcola that his speed is very, very good. He came on kind of towards the end of the game. I don't think he was necessarily poor or anything like that. I just think he's still raw, but he has qualities that you just can't teach. He's a really tricky customer, 1v1. He's very rapid, and those things go a long, long way for wingers. I think about the effect that Rashford had on White every single time he played against White. Ben would freaking get a early yellow every single time he played against Rashford. And Rashford is just a tricky customer 1v1 and very rapid. Those types of things are just, they're so useful for teams, so yeah, I think Barcola is really, really good. But I mean, there's so much winger talent out there that I think it was hard to look past Lamine Yamal. I also think, Nico Williams really stood out. And then, the French players didn't really get going as much. Shirky came in and changed the game, but we all know that they're fantastic players. We literally just watched PSG the other day, so we know. Keenan says Barcola is just tall Nelly. He's def better. He's going to have some of the same frustrating deficiencies, including missing easy chances. Big says Barcola was good to know what game people were watching. Him and Shirky made things happen. Anthony says PSG signed Krava to replace Barcola. It makes no sense for us to buy Barcola to do what exactly? Well, I mean, if we're saying that we're not going to take players that are kind of like outside of the main players on top teams, then I don't know why we would want so many of the players that we have. I mean, that's how we've gotten some of our better players, especially in the Emirates era, the Ozils and the Alexises. They were kind of in the shadows of really, really good sides. And so we ended up taking them and they ended up making us better. So I'm not going to say I'm not taking Barcola or, even like we're going to talk about him in a second, Rodrygo, these players that are kind of maybe not so much at the forefront in these elite sides, but, could definitely make us better when we have the likes of Kai Havertz and Trossard and Martinelli starting games for Arsenal on a regular basis. So I think we turn our nose up at players that walk straight into our team. I don't see how Barcola doesn't walk straight into our team. He's faster than Nelly. He's better 1v1 than Nelly. He has more goal involvements than Nelly. He's just, to me, he at least has the at 20 versus Nelly's 24 has the ability. If there's not much between them now, how much better will Barcola be than Martinelli in 4 years? So I would say to do what exactly? It's take over for a player that's not taking us to the next level, not scoring enough goals, not good enough 1v1, not clinical enough, not tricky enough, not creative enough. I would say that. That's why we bring him in. Johnny says, between Sesko and Barcola, I prefer Sesko. Treetop says, do you think Wirtz would come to Arsenal? No. AD says, what do you mean change the game? Spain didn't even kick into high gear. I do think they changed the game. I don't think that, it could be undermined that they came in and they started scoring goals. The only thing is that obviously that change in speed or that change in the game did also coincide with Spain taking off some of their players. But still, it's like you can't really take that away from them because the players that they had on there, they weren't really making a difference themselves. They weren't scoring, they weren't getting past their men. So I do think they changed the game. There's context around it, but I do think they changed the game. O'Malley says, what a great game. Both countries full of attacking talent. Victor says, Reinders, Shirky, at Nuri, Man City are greedy. Yeah, for sure. AD says Williams was looking good today. He was looking good. And that was a really good kind of display or a good example of what he could bring to Arsenal that we just don't have. We just don't have that. We have it on the right, but we don't have it on the left. So yeah, Vig says Turkey for 25 million, Lyon are getting robbed. How are we not in for him? I swear if the reason is because Odegaard's been platformed as our number 10, then the club is finished. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's because of Odegaard. I think the club also tried to bring in Fabio Vieira and he didn't work out. So obviously there's scope for another number 10 to be there despite Odegaard being one of the players. We also play players like Havertz in the 10 on the left-hand side. We play players like Marino in the 10 on the left-hand side. So I don't know if it's an Odegaard thing. I think people are hyper-focused on Odegaard because they want him to be the villain, but it's not Odegaard's fault that Arteta doesn't want to bring in other number 10s. He had ESR and he also had Fabio Vieira, got rid of both of them, and replace them basically with Havertz and Marino. So I don't know if it's an Odegaard problem. I don't know what to tell you. O'Malley says even Conceição for Portugal showed more attacking threat than Martinelli. John says before the game, I thought Desiree Doué was going to shine like Lamal, but Yamal. We have to also remember, guys, that we're talking about very young players. Lamine Yamal, Desiree Doué, Barcola are young. Nico Williams. These are not seasoned players like the likes of Dembele and Mbappe. We are watching very young attacking talent kind of go through the kinks of playing for their club team and also playing for their national team. Desiree Doué and Barcola are not consistent players in the national team. I think all three of them, Desiree Doué, Barcola, and Cherki, are making some of their first appearances for the team, and they made those appearances in a difficult moment where their team was like down 5-1. So I would maybe give them a little bit of grace. It's not like, because Nico Williams has been playing with the Spanish national team since the Euros, and they want it, and they have a very consistent system. They're a lot more smooth. It's just different. It's like when you guys watch Nico Williams play for Bilbao, you're not as excited as when you watch him for Spain, but it's kind of the inverse for the other players is when they're playing for their club team, you can see what their qualities are. But when they come into the France team, when they're down, and the France team is strange, they're not particularly fluid. They're not very consistent. They have a weird system. I think it's harsh to like make any definitive things about any of these players. I just think you can still see the talent despite, the little hitches that they have from a system perspective, experience perspective, things like that. Pep does not get the best of attacking players. He relies on a system to churn out the goals, limiting individual brilliance. John says, but Cherki changed the game. For real, Man City's got a gem. I'm jealous. Johnny says, Ronaldo would shoot you if he heard your Conceição pronunciation. Well, he can shoot me if he wants. Marco says, watch Pep turn Cherki into Bernardo Silva. Victor says, Yamal is different breed. Brian Holiday says, bro, we have Martinelli. He is literally the worst winger out of any of the wingers that played today. Why do people think Martinelli is so good? I don't know. Lay says, most of our fans that don't rate Zubi don't even watch him game in and game out. The guy will cook. By the way, I'm Spanish and I live in España. Yeah, I think Zubi just has those qualities that, a lot of Arsenal fans, I do think, not Arsenal fans, but fans in general, when they think of a DM, they need to see somebody breaking legs. And even though we know that they're different types of DMs, I think with Zubi, his game is so it's more like little things that he does. And a lot of it is what's going on up here that make him better than other people. But you got to see today the line breaking passes and, him starting attacks. One of the balls that he played into the channels ended up being, from the next player, an assist for Lamine Yamal's goal in the second half. He's going to do those things for us. That pass from that point is to Saka. So I think it was a good thing that people got to see him in a better light to make them feel a little bit more confident that they're making the right decision when it comes to Zubi. O'Malley says Lay is spot on. I've been watching him for 3 years now. When we went for Marino, I was like, no, wrong player. Glad we went back in for him. Let's see. Anthony says, no one thinks Martinelli is good. He gets slaughtered every Arsenal stream, but there's no way anyone trying to see us bring in Barcola to replace him. Leao Rodrygo needs to be at the level. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Jess, I think Zubimendi may be a good signing for us. I think we should allow him time to adjust if he comes. Yeah, he's probably going to need some time to adjust, but he'll probably be fine. John says, who had the worst downfall, Martinelli or Pepe? I don't even know if Pepe had a chance to downfall because I think he had a consistent inconsistency from the beginning that made people question whether or not we had spent the right amount of money. I also think the money in itself means that Martinelli, as frustrated as we are with him, he ends up being a success story because 6 million is a snip for a player that, no matter how we really feel about him, is like a starter for like a title challenging team. So I think they're two completely different things. I think Pepe always had a cloud of doubt around him because of the fee and the fact that there was always like these weird things like with him. But Martinelli, it's just more the system changed, and then it just highlights his clear limitations, and we need something different. Diallo says, hi, Jess. I'm going to say it now. Turkey is better than Wirtz. They can argue with their girls. Jordan says, would you take Jamie Vardy on a free if it comes down to it because desperate times call for desperate measures? No. At this stage, not as, why would I take Vardy? You know, I know it's desperate times call for desperate measures, but no, I think his time in the Prem is kind of over. I mean, unless he goes to another relegation side, no. I mean, I like Vardy, don't get me wrong, I respect him, but no. D Shadow says, yeah, it's a downfall for Mart because people thought he would be elite and he isn't. He's matched and better Pepe season. Yeah, it's just a different conversation. Stuart says, Marino has impressed me, to be honest, really turned a corner. He just has like this thing where you don't want him to be near your own goal because he's easy to take the ball off of. He's not really like Xhaka, where even Xhaka had this problem at times, but he doesn't know how to like maneuver his body quick enough so that the other player can't take it from him. And so I think the farther he is away from the goal, the better, if that makes sense. I kind of wish that that was the final, but I mean, Vitinha versus Zubi might be fun, right? I'm going to pull up the report. Let me see. That was a great game. Thank you guys so much for telling me and like convincing me to watch it. I really do appreciate that because I actually really enjoyed it. I also secured another job during the game, so that helps. That makes me happy, you know. So let's get into the nitty gritty, you know. So make sure you guys are, you know, smashing the likes and subscribing to the channel. Well, guys, I regret to inform you, we have to fulfill our duty, our yearly duty, every summer window or every window. We need to give money to Chelsea. Arsenal are informed on the £5 million release clause for KEPA as an option to be Raya's backup. Initial talks took place to be informed on the deal conditions. That is via Sky. Now, I'm going to give you guys my feelings on this. I don't care about the goalkeeper. I repeat, I do not care about the backup goalkeeper. Call me old man shouting at clown. Call me a dinosaur. Call me like a non-modern fan, whatever. But this whole nonsense about the backup goalkeeper needing to be anything other than a competent goalkeeper is just not my speed. I don't want to think about backups. I don't want to hear about backups. I just don't want it, you know? So from my perspective, if Kepa had never played for Chelsea, I'd be like, just do it. Just do it. I don't care, you know? Now, even though he is coming from Chelsea, I am kind of like, let's just get it done. He's cheap. He's Premier League proven. He's a solid goalkeeper. Actually, watching him for Bournemouth versus watching him for Chelsea shows that it's mostly just Chelsea. It's not really the players, you know, but it's quite literally just a backup goalkeeper. Now, does it sting that we're always giving them money? Yes, it does. And I hate that aspect of things, but take the Chelsea part out of it. It's just the fucking backup goalkeeper. I really don't give a fuck. Like, I really don't. I'm going to be so fucking real with y'all. I do not care about the backup goalkeeper. It's killing me. You know, talking about backup goalkeepers and the whole Juan Garcia thing was making my head spin. Because I'm just like, why can't we move away from the backup goalkeeper conversation and move into the conversation about the types of positions that need to be filled in order for us to actually do what we need to do? Like, yes, of course, a backup goalkeeper can tank your shit. We saw, what is that? What's the guy's name that played for Liverpool? Karius. that having a bad backup goalkeeper can kill, your trophy hopes at some stage. But for the most part, the backup goalkeeper is not somebody that's going to keep you from winning shit. So let's just move on. I really don't care. Raya should not be playing Carabao Cup games. He should be able to rest, and it just is what it is. Backup goalkeeper, Premier League proven, cheap. Let's move on from this. I expect this to get done. Leopold says 5 million for Kepa is better than 25 for Garcia. Kimberly says as long as he's not cup tied, I guess. Pat says big up everyone. Wally says he's a good penalty goalkeeper. Stewart says to think they paid 70 million for Kepa. 88 miles per hour says use him for Carabao Cup games. Leopold says 5 million for Kepa is 25 for Garcia. Marco says I'm surprised Kepa will accept not playing. You'd think he'd want to play week in and week out. Yo-Yo says Anaki Kanya has been a fraud since signing Alex Runnerson. Mohammed says can play in League Cup and FA Cup. D Shadow says we do love an ex-Bournemouth goalkeeper. We do. Johnny says we have good experiences with Chelsea goalkeepers. Check was good. Boy says Setford could have done this for free. Damon says if we are honest, Kepa was solid last season. He is worth 3 million at best though. But I agree with you why we keep giving Chelsea money. I'm going to be real with you guys. I think the thing with Chelsea and the reason why they can spend so much and the reason why we struggle to is because they have a good reputation in the market. They often get people asking about their players, wanting their players. And so when their players are out there on the market, whether we like it or not, the club is not going to look at it from a Chelsea perspective, Chelsea versus Arsenal. They're looking at it just like every other team. Like Brighton looks at it, like Bournemouth looks at it, like Brentford looks at it, like any of these other teams look at it. Man United look at it and say, is this a good opportunity? And outside of the fact that it's Chelsea, it's not a bad opportunity for a backup goalkeeper. Stewart says when Kepa gets announced as our first signing, now that I will not be there for. The Arsenal Perspective says, do you think this is a Berta inspired signing, Kepa? No. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know if it. Yeah, I was just checking to see what you were doing. I heard something. I don't know if it's a Berta. I don't know. Do I think that we would not see something like this if he wasn't here? I don't know because this feels very Arsenal. Spanish goalkeeper, Chelsea, so it feels very Arsenal if I'm honest, but potentially. But I do think Berta probably came in and was like, why the fuck are we spending 20 something million on a backup? And I do think that is the right way to think about it. I think when we're in the situation that we're in, if we had, had the summer that we were supposed to have last summer, or even just like, not even from that perspective, but just went out there and pretty much like had all the pieces that we needed. And then we were looking in the margins to see where we could just get a little bit better. Then I could understand going out there and getting like a Juan Garcia and knowing that he's going to take over for Raya at some stage. But because we've had so many weird windows since, for the last couple of windows, we've left a lot of gaps and a lot of questions within the squad. So we don't really have the room to be doing that. To me, that's a very arrogant thing to do, is to go out there and buy another number one goalkeeper to create a circus around our goalkeeper situation when we have a 2-time Golden Glove winner in between the sticks for us, and we don't have a striker, so we really need to just get over it, 88 miles per hour says, make this last rival signing, please. Johnny says, I heard at Potts 12th man yesterday that Berta said to an Arsenal fan, you got him, talking about Gyökeres. Berta seems like he knows what he's doing, even if Arteta sucks at transfers. Raul says, Kepa is on 150K per week, double the half his wages, and be the second goalkeeper. Thoughts? I think he lowered his wages when he went to Bournemouth. I could be wrong, but I think he did lower them to like 65 or something like that, but I could be wrong. But I thought I read something like that. John says Arteta loves washed players. It's just a backup goalkeeper. Aha says his wages may be high. We always sign one Premier League proven player. So sign one Prem player every window. So hopefully that makes our quota met. The Arsenal perspective says, which fan is going to want to pay for all those letters on the back of a goalkeeper shirt? Arrizabalaga, wow, it wins a lot of points on Scrabble. Yeah, I don't know if I care that like it's just I think it's more of like a if he didn't play for Chelsea or he wasn't a Chelsea player, I think the narrative around this would be different or people wouldn't be as like against it. I think if he was just a Premier League level goalkeeper that we could get for £5 million and he was going to be our backup, I think we'd all be on board. But it's just like that little tinge of um, we got to give them more money, you know. Shamara says the KEPA signing is fine. It's literally second choice. Ignore the Chelsea fans creaming themselves over it. Yeah, I mean, instantly I saw them like, give us the money. I was like, this is why Arsenal fans can't get behind it, but I hear it. It is annoying, which I understand. And like Pat Purser says, strengthen the attack. And that's what we're going to talk about right now, which was kind of annoying. I'm not going to lie. Hand of Arsenal. This was very rude of you to bring this out like literally minutes after I I got off of the last stream and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to do another one tonight. Great. I don't mind talking to you guys. I love you guys to death, but if we could have done it in the last stream, that would have been great. Um so obviously Sky Sports has said Rodrygo is our number one option. I think like Sky Sport Leo, Lau, whatever his name is, had said that. We had spoken about how some of the narratives or some of the reports coming out from different people were saying that, left wing was not a guarantee and how it was like, it needs to be a guarantee. There's no way that we can go through this window and not get two attackers, especially if one of them is Sesko. I like Sesko. I want Sesko at the club. I'm fine with it as long as the left wing is an upgrade or somebody that takes us to another level or is experienced. I can stomach a younger striker if that's the direction that we go in. So my top option was always Rodrygo. My second option was Nico Williams. Nico Williams was a star today. You can see why I wanted him. Now this news of Rodrygo's come out. And this is from Hand of Arsenal. Now you guys are like, this isn't a real report. Yeah, it's not here we go, but it's definitely coming from somebody that's pretty reliable when it comes to Arsenal. This is an exclusive coming from Hand of Arsenal. Arsenal have made Rodrygo their number one winger target this summer. We can exclusively reveal, and this journalist is from Revolo, and he has been reporting a lot on the I'm gonna botch this kid's name, but it's like Mascherano, the Argentinian kid that Real Madrid are signing. He's been talking a lot about that. So he does, have connections or at least some information with when it comes to Real Madrid. But he said, we can exclusively reveal the recruitment team at Arsenal are in a unanimous agreement that Rodrygo is the player who could be the difference in the hunt for major silverware. Several key figures at Arsenal have spoken to Rodrygo, including first-team players about life at Arsenal, North London. Other Premier League sides are involved and have set out their strategy to lure him, but I am told Arsenal will present a strong financial offer if the player is placed on the market. What is the current situation? As reported weeks ago, Rodrygo is set to have a meeting with Xabi Alonso regarding his future role at Real Madrid. This meeting is yet to take place. And we can also exclusively reveal Rodrygo will try to emphasize he will want to play a left-sided role. That's really key in my opinion, because if you start talking about you want to play on the left and we know who exists on the left-hand side, it's pretty much going to be a no-go. But the Brazilian feels this is where he can express himself the best and maximize his creative potential positionally. The Club World Cup will be a key indicator of how Rodrygo's future is settled. Real Madrid are adamant that they do not want to sell Rodrygo unless the player asks for a move personally. Arsenal are willing to pull off an Ozil-esque transfer and compete with any club for the services of Rodrygo should he become available. Yeah, and then he's talking about some other stuff. What are we saying? What are we saying, guys? What are we thinking here? This is aligned with some of the other things that we've seen um, over the last couple of days, that he's still somebody that Arsenal really want, or he's high up on the list. This is saying that Arsenal are willing to do the financial part of it. Um, I don't know if Arsenal are just playing it down, how much money they have, because we know that he would cost at least 80 million, right? And then he'd want big wages. And maybe that's another thing that keeps us from going for Jokeris. Jokeris wants 300,000 pounds a week. If you give him the 300,000 pounds a week, then you can't give it to Rodrygo, whereas Sesko will probably take like 100 and something thousand pounds a week. So maybe that's being taken into consideration. I was kind of saying that, a lot of people, because it was, I don't think it was ever going to be Jokeris plus Rodrigo. It was going to be like Rodrigo plus Sesko or Jokeris plus a younger winger, but I personally do think Rodrigo could have the type of effect that, not from a playing style perspective, but a lift in quality and talent level that Alexis had for us. And so I think we should do everything in our power to try to persuade him to come to Arsenal. He is definitely going to be falling behind in the pecking order. They're buying the Smastruanu. They have Arda Güler, who they, have big hopes and dreams with. Vinny is on one side. It's tough for him. And he's somebody that probably needs to be kind of like the star somewhere. And we could offer him the 10 shirt. We can offer him, it'll be him and Saka up front, the stars of the show. We could offer him all the things that he probably wants, outside of, good weather. And so if Arsenal have anything about them, they will make this their key play for the summer window. I just feel like it's the only thing that I can think of that we can do to try to close the gap on some of the other teams that are making big moves. We must, but um, what do you guys think? I'm very interested to know what you guys think about this. Let me get off this so I don't get copyrighted. Let's see. Where can I go? Where can I go? Yeah, right here. Let's see. Pat says, sign him, no question. Joshua says, I'm not sure why Real Madrid would sell their best player. This isn't their best player. I like, yeah, he's not their best player. Their best, I mean, they have Mbappe and they have Vinny. So it's not that I don't think that they rate him. I think they do, but when there's somebody else there that's playing in your natural position and you can't get anywhere near it, I think that has to be a little bit, tough for somebody like him. Um, so yeah. Um, let's see, I'm just making sure I didn't read anything else. Yeah, Circuit City. Okay. All right. So Rainmaker says, I don't want to get carried away by this tweet, but my word, this would be the sort of signing that would inject so much optimism to the team and the fan base. Diallo says, 5 million is chicken change. We shouldn't spend more than that on a backup goalie. Johnny says, well, we must wait till we know if he's available or not. People will only get more restless. We need at least to get Zuby over the line. 88 says Alonso will try to make it work with Rodrigo. I think it's all about whether or not he can say he wants him to stay. Of course, if I'm Javi Alonso, I don't want him to leave. But if he can't get any sort of like, confirmation that he's going to play left wing, and they're bringing in other players that play in that position. Arda Güler and that Mastuano guy both can play left-sided 10, or sorry, not left-sided 10, right-sided 10, right wing type of positions. And so they have players coming down the line that'll probably be in those positions on the right. And then you have an unmovable object in Vinny Jr. on that side, even if, because I've heard that Real Madrid want to buy a striker. They're going to buy a striker. Even if they play a striker, you're still probably behind Kylian Mbappe for that left wing position. Because remember, that's the natural position of Kylian Mbappe is left wing, so there's quite a few things in his way that are not making it so easy for him to get in that position. And so I would just say, listen, try everything you can to convince him to come. If you can't get him to come, then you have other options. But I would prefer for this to be the type of player that we push for than settling for, the Semenyos and these guys. Because Semenyos and those types of players, the Pashaus, those guys, they're not lifting us up. They're not taking us to the next level. They are just in the shuffle of players that we have, and quite frankly, I would much rather use the likes of Ethan and those types of players than random guys that we get from other teams that don't lift us, but this would be the type of signing that I'm expecting when you're talking about goosebumps and shit. MA says Rodrygo would be so good for Arsenal, would carry the team. AD says, imagine we can get him and Alvarez. Damn, that would be a dream. Johnny says more than a handful of clubs, maybe one at best, if even. Fabrizio says Rodrygo would be an absolute statement signing. Shamara says, Jabi, we gave you Xhaka. Let us have Rodrygo, please. John says, heard Real were interested in Nico Williams. Yo-Yo says, Zubi and Rodrygo in the same window would go some way to making up for the last summer window. Lady says, I could be wrong, but I feel like the Premier League wouldn't suit Rodrygo. Brazilian forwards don't do well in this league. I won't lose my mind if we got him, though. What do you mean by that? Brazilian forwards don't do well in this league. Now, I get maybe being concerned about him translating to the league, but you literally have players Martinelli scored 15 goals in this league. Jesus has been really good in this league. Cunha has been really good in this league. Firmino has been really good in this league. I actually think Brazilians have done well in this league. What Brazilian forward has come over and flopped? I guess that would be a better question because I don't really know of many that came over and flopped, but I could just be overlooking some things. Maybe Anthony, you could put him in the flop category. Trying to think. I think for the most part, Brazilians do translate to the Prem pretty well. But maybe you guys have some examples. Richarlison, Jesus did not flop. He has over 100 goals in England. He didn't flop. He's just not like a goal scorer per se, but Jesus didn't flop. Let's see. Yo-Yo says the Middlesbrough guy years and years ago. Eduardo was good. Fred was decent. Stuart says, I literally don't believe anyone worthwhile will end up here. Jesus, Richarlison. So yeah, I think that's fine though. I feel like, thinking that, wondering if his game will translate is a normal fear when you're going to spend a lot of money potentially on a player from a different league. But I would tend to say that I feel like La Liga does really, really well and Brazilians actually do okay. So yeah, Joelinton, good after he went into midfield, of course. Willian was fantastic in this league as well. So yeah, I think Brazilians do well. I do understand wondering if it will translate 100%. Like, it happens, yeah, Shirky was crazy today. He definitely was the talk of, was the talk of that game after Lamine Mall came out. So, yeah. Shamara says, Bomba. Check hand of Arsenal retweet. My head is about to explode. What are you doing? What are you saying? What's happening? Arsenal, don't fuck this up. Don't fuck this up. Breaking. Rodrygo is now likely to leave Madrid this summer. The club will demand at least 80 million fixed, and the final sale price will likely be around 80 million or 100 million. So that's 80 million fixed is like what 67 no. Somebody do the math for me. 80 million euros. Either way, it's a steal. Arsenal, don't fuck this up. Come on. Please don't let him go City or worse, Chelsea. 90 million euros. Pounds. Like I said, 67 million pounds fixed, and the final sale price will be around 100, so around 80. Come on, Arsenal, you gotta get this done. My heart is beating so fast. I'm like, "Come on. We need this." Bro, who can go talk to him? Gabrielle, please go talk to him. Um, do we want Martinelli talking to him? No, I'm just joking. Jesus, go talk to him. Seriously, go talk to him. My heart is pumping, bro. Come on. Um, Aha says 80 million euros is 67 million. That's so cheap. That is so fucking cheap, man. Like, let's see how things play out. But, you know, let's see how things play out. But the one thing I will say about Hand of Arsenal, 100% for Arsenal, is that he doesn't really try to say anything unless he feels like it's reliable because he doesn't want us to send us on a wild goose chase. And that's probably why he's the most reliable in the know for Arsenal. And so him putting his neck out for something like this, I think is very like, okay, he knows that Arsenal fans are on pins and needles. They want a big signing, so he wouldn't put his like, his stamp on anything that he doesn't feel like is legit information. Does it mean it's going to happen? No. Arsenal still would have to he would really have to be available, and he'd have to beat out the likes of they have to beat out the likes of City and Chelsea, because I'm pretty sure they would be interested as well. Chelsea want a winger, and I think City are still interested in bringing in a left winger. But he starts for us. He starts for us. You can make him the star. You can give him the 10, all those types of things. You have to offer him everything. You have to offer him absolutely everything, So I'd be offering him the 10. I'd be offering him 300,000 pounds a week. I would be doing everything to get him to Arsenal, Shamari says Chelsea won't pay him the wages that I think they just gave Palmer the 10. John says Rodrygo first, then Sesko. Burmese says, I was watching Don Hussam stream yesterday saying if AFC got Semenyo and Sesko, no one will be scared. But if we got Rodrygo and Gyökeres, LFC and City should be concerned. Can I be honest? I agree with the Semenyo versus Rodrygo thing. But I think Sesko is going to blam a couple people, and it's going to get nasty. One of those long-range bangers into the back of the net. I think people view Sesko as not good because he's young and because the numbers don't match up. But that guy is that guy is it. So Rodrygo plus Sesko plus Saka. I'm there. Offer him whatever. Offer him whatever he wants. Don't even question. What do you want? Hold on, let me pull up something. Because I had made this earlier and now it's more relevant. Man, I'm getting goosebumps. No, imagine. He has to leave there. He has to leave. Why do you want to stay there, man? They don't even like you like that. They don't even like you. They're not even giving you your position. Come on. All right. Let's see. All right. So that would be the team. What do we think? Obviously, the backups aren't there, but that's a good starting 11. I like it. What do you guys think? Is it shit? Should I put Havertz up front? Would that be better with his new muscles? Remember, this is the best defense in the league. So we're just propping that. We got a, you know, Champions League player of the season, a Premier League player of the season, a Zubi, and Odegaard reinvigorated because he's going to come back, Saka and Rodrygo and Sesko. What do you guys think? Saka says, well, sorry, Shamaria says Saka will go up levels. MA says, not good enough to win the CL or PL. John says, just showing your delusional our side. I feel like this isn't delusional. This is pretty much what we're looking at, right? And then the only thing we've added there is Rodrygo, and I'm asking a question. AD says, I would happily make Rodrygo the highest paid player at Arsenal. Yoda says, Kai is starting over Sesko at the start of the season at least. Ugh, I don't really want to add him in. But I guess imagine that that's Havertz instead. Rainmaker says, I guess Jess is finally getting the goosebumps Arteta was talking about. I mean, I would love to see us really put some pressure on Rodrygo and be like, listen, we're going to give you the 10. We're going to give you 300,000 pounds a week. You're going to be a star at Arsenal. Like, you're going to be the guy. It's going to be you and Saka, like, doing the business for us. Like, come on. And also, for you Martinelli lovers, Rodrygo can also, like we know, play on the right, and Martinelli can play on the left. So you still have other options that you can utilize too. So there's stuff up there. Mikey says, that's a great lineup. Lots of counterattack up front, in my opinion. I can see Rodrygo, Saga dragging on. I'm impatient. Yeah, we have to be patient with this. If it's actually going to happen, we'll have to be patient. Let's see. Shamara says, I will not be there if this is the saga of the summer. Berta, please get this over the line. Yo-Yo says, Martinelli's best position is on the bench. Josh says, this is giving me Alexis vibes. He can change my life. King says, solidify second place. Just kidding. As a rival, that's really good. But aren't you worried about his injury record? Are you talking about Rodrygo? Well, let's take a look at that. I haven't looked at that yet. So let me actually take a little gander at Rodrygo's injury record. Please don't be Tomiyasu. That would kill me. His birthday is January 9th. My birthday's on the 10th. Capricorns, let's go. Now, what is this? Who? Okay, let me put it up here. Because who is saying something about some injuries? Now, hold on. Listen, this is not bad. Fever, a muscle injury that kept him out for like 3 games, a hamstring injury that kept him out for 2. Let's see, and that was like 22-23. What he had from this season was 1 hamstring injury that kept him out for 2 games, 1 muscle injury that kept him out for 3, and a fever that kept him out for 1. 22-23 was a tough one for him, but these were all like rest around the same time. And this was actually all the same. All of this right here is all the same thing. From May 12th to May 15th is all the same. So this is all one thing here, and it's all rest. So outside, he didn't have any outstanding, like, huge injuries except for in 2020, 2021, he had this hamstring. So now, why did you have me in panic mode? Who was that? Who was that? Who lied? Who said, are you scared about his injury record? King Bummy. Come on now. Dr. Ken says, imagine Partey, Kai, Marino, Martinelli, Trussard, Munieri on the bench. Good depth. AD says, maybe teach his Brazilian brother and Martinelli a thing or two. John says, Gabriel Martinelli and G6 should do the agent's work while in Brazil. Leahy says, Havertz is so polarizing. He is a good squad player. He has 37 GA in his last 50 games. Those are not bad numbers. They're not bad numbers, but, at the end of the day, we watch with our eyes and we know what we're looking at. He caps our potential at a certain place, so he's been much better than probably what many of us expected. But, yeah, he is very polarizing. It's just like, I feel like if we were all in a room alone without any narratives and any internet and we could be honest, I think most people would say, "Yeah, we probably could have spent that money better, and we could do much better than this." I think some people just have to be right or have to protect the manager, you know? Um, let's see. Marco says, "When you were all panicking about getting Semenyo yesterday, I was telling y'all stay calm. Rodrigo is on the way. See, relax, Gooners." Well, it actually has to come to fruition, Marco. Nothing's really happened yet. I mean, we're getting some in the know information from somebody really reliable. We also know that Sky Sports reiterated it. I think this was earlier today. Let me actually pull it up. Um, hold on. That was really a great game. 9 goals. That's insane. Um, hold on, I'm just looking for it because it was kind of a long time ago. Yeah, this came from no, it was even before that. It was like earlier this morning. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Oh, Sky Sports Lyle or whatever said Arsenal are interested in signing Rodrygo from Real Madrid. Rodrygo is high among the left wingers on the list, along with players such as Nico Williams, Leroy Sané, and Morgan Rogers. So, more than one person has said it today. So, please, Arsenal, do me a favor, bring, you know, do something for me, make us happy. King Bummy says, Jess, don't you think usually Spain players get more injuries when they come to EPL? Um, well, it definitely happened to Partey. He broke down. He never had a single injury in his life and then came over here and couldn't stay fit. Um, I don't know. Rodri came from there. Um, I have to think because I need to like go back and look at a list because when I'm thinking about it just from like here, it's hard to think, because I can't like all of a sudden now I can't remember a single player in the Prem that came from Spain. So yeah, but I don't know if I'm too worried about it, you know? Um Imaginary injury records. I need that Ornstein. Rodrigo has chosen to join Arsenal. Tweet so bad. It can't be a saga, guys. I think a couple of you guys have said it, but it cannot be a saga. I don't think I could do it. I really don't. It can't be multiple teams invested or interested. Hopefully, this is something that Berta has already pretty much done it and then can just fire, what because it's done, Um, so yeah, like Shamar, exactly. It cannot be a saga. Worm, thank you so much for your super chat. Says Arsenal should raid Leon for some of their talents. Um, I mean, outside of because I don't know a lot of their players. The only one that I know now is like Fofana, the winger, the little left winger, little Belgian kid, but I don't know a lot of their players. So I think Turkey was kind of like their crown jewel, kind of thing. So, but before when they had Paketa, wanted Paketa. When they had Bruno G, I wanted Bruno G. I wanted a War when they had a War. They've had those types of players. So, but we can't see. We're like Sandra Bullock in what's the movie called? Like where she can't see, the bird or whatever it's called. We're like that. We cannot see the French talents. The French talents in League we can't see it. We're like, we can't see it. Like we don't shop over there anymore. The last time we shopped over there was when Raul was the coach, or not the coach, sorry, the sporting director or whatever. Cal, thank you so much for your super chat. Cal says, Jess, I would bite your hand off for Zuby, Rodrigo, and Sesko. I don't trust us to get a lot of targets right. I don't really either. I think Zuby and Sesko we pretty much have, but we know we need something else, something big, especially on that left-hand side. And so I'm the same way. I would bite your hand off for those 3 signings because that would be probably our best summer window, you know, ever, if I'm honest, because even with, um, the window that we had with Declan Rice, there was still like that little bit of like, well, why do we get Kai? So yeah, I totally agree 100%. I would bite your hand off for that summer window. And then you can bring Kepa along. I really don't care because we will have improved, in midfield. We will have improved on the wing and we have a real striker. And I think even if he's a young striker, he's going to change things for us because we haven't had a real striker since Aubameyang, you know? Um, Blake says, people forget we bought Gabriel and Saliba from League One. Fabrizio says, Zubi, Sesko, Rodrygo, Kepa, 10 out of 10 window. Lady says, Jess, you watch. Rodrigo's injury record would be the next thing some of our fan base will latch on to. Yeah, I mean, hopefully if he does come, if it does end up working out for us and we do end up getting him, that he wouldn't end up having some like weird injury record for us. But listen, we just have to see how things work out, you know. Let's see what else. Aha says Zubi, Sesko, Rodrigo for around 210, maybe 230 if we overestimate. Yeah, that should be what we're spending. 200,000 pounds. Sorry, 200 million pounds is what we should be spending like standard in a window. So yeah, Johan says, what's up with the Rodgers rumors? Any legs to that? I saw something earlier about Arsenal asking about Rodgers last week. So let me pull it up. So we had spoken about that like earlier with Gary Jacob had said that he's a player that we're interested in. And then actually Charlie Gordon from the Express said Arsenal made their first inquiries about Morgan Rogers last week. It's not been followed up yet. Follows a similar contact from Liverpool, actually, several weeks ago. Aston Villa will demand big money. So I don't know if I believe that we have two, after Sesko and Zubi, we have two big signings left. I think we have one bang left, and that's pause. We have one big signing left, and that will be the left winger. But Rodgers is also in that group for some reason as like a more versatile attacker, So why we hate Eze so much, I do not know. But I think he's a good player that would add something. So it says Arsenal have made inquiries about signing Morgan Rogers this summer. Actually, let me pull it up because you guys are looking at this injury record. You don't need to look at that anymore. All right, can you guys see that? Yeah. Okay, pull this down. All right. Speaking of Sandra Bullock, she's right there on the side. All right, so Arsenal have made inquiries about signing Morgan Rogers this summer after adding him to their transfer list. The Gunners are intending to sign a new left wing to compete with Gabriel Martinelli. They aren't the only Premier League big shots to have taken an interest in Aston Villa star. Rogers contributed 18 goals in 37 Premier League matches last season and racked up another 6 goal contributions in the Champions League. The 22-year-old established himself as a key player under Unai Emery over the course of the last campaign. His rapid rise has put clubs on alert. They understand that Arsenal have included him as on the list of left-wing targets, but despite making contact with his camp last week, they're yet to wrap up their interest. The North Londoners' inquiries follow a similar approach from Liverpool prior to the summer transfer window opening. The Reds' early stage interest is yet to be followed up. And although that has left the door ajar for Arsenal to swoop in, both clubs will be aware that Villa could demand a fee well in excess of 70 million. Rodgers put pen to paper on a new contract in November, so he's not going to be cheap. And this kind of just echoes what was said earlier this morning in one of the like Times articles or whatever about Morgan Rogers. So I guess he's seen as more of like uh, a versatile attacker that can play off of the left or play in midfield or whatever. I'm kind of like with Abdo. I kind of rather if we were to go this route, I'd rather Eze than Rogers. I just think he's just more. I can just see him in Arsenal shirt. I cannot see this guy in an Arsenal shirt. But he's a good player that would add some things to this team that we desperately need. A ball progressor, a bulldozer, the number that he did on our midfield on the like first game of the season last season or first away game was pretty outstanding, So I think he's a good player, but I'd prefer Eze if we go this route. But he is a good player, but he would be expensive. Like I said, I think we only have one big signing left in us after the Sesko and Zuby signings. So I feel like it would be more of um, a Rodrygo versus a Morgan Rogers situation. And I'd prefer Rodrygo over Morgan Rogers if that's what we're going to. So yeah, Aha says Eze has a 68 million pound release clause, I think. MA says always listening to everything. I noticed one time I was talking about installing a staircase. Next thing I see on iPhone, the YouTube ad was for an ad of staircase construction. Internet is suspect. Yes, quite literally the other day, I was talking about something to my friend, and it was something very obscure and something very random. And then I looked at my phone and the ad popped up. They're listening for sure. Radiant and Dyer says Sane big signing incoming. Um, let's see. Johnny says if Rogers costs as much as Eze, we won't buy him either if we buy Rodrygo. I don't see a midfield kind of signing and a winger signing coming in. I think it'll just be one or the other, Does that make sense? So I would imagine Rogers is on the list as an option if we want to do something different, but they will exhaust the Rodrygo situation and then see what they can do with other people. Essentially, talking to his camp is probably just like the equivalent of, Berta trying to see what he costs and all that kind of stuff. So if things don't work out with Rodrygo, we can just move to the next thing. Kyan says the scary part will be when you're thinking of something and then you see an ad. Exactly. It's just scary. It's scary how they just can hear everything and then it just pops up. Like it's not coincidence. To me, it's not coincidence at all. Yeah, it's not coincidence. Yo, somebody, okay. Can I show you guys something? Let's get all the way. Like let's just think really quick because I want to show you guys something. But that's the stuff on Morgan Rogers. Take from that what you will. Because I just saw this and I'm like, exactly. Hold on, let me present it. Bruh. Do you guys see this? Zuby and Declan. Right? Am I begging it? Why is it already cold? Am I begging it? Is this not Zuby and Declan? Is this not Zuby and Declan? Or am I begging it? You guys, wait a minute now. I know we took a little U-turn here. But listen to me. Is this, imagine these are Arsenal kits, by the way. I know they're Liverpool kits and they're gross. But Zuby, is his like idol not Xavi? And is Declan not like Stevie G? Am I begging it? Somebody let me know. Somebody let me know. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm moved. I'm moved. I'm moved. I'm not gonna lie. I'm moved. Listen. You don't think so? Jordan says, no, think you're reaching. No, no one agrees. Wayne says, why is it already cold? Bit much. Abdo says, ha ha ha. Okay, you guys don't agree, but listen, I'm getting the picture. I'm getting the picture. I'm seeing the picture. I don't know where Odegaard fits in all this, but I'm seeing the picture. Big Bobby says Alonso looks like Arteta. Yeah, from that. Yeah, from the hair, he definitely does. John says, what was the Invincibles midfield trio? Gilberto. There was no real trio because we played a 4-4-2, but it was Gilberto, Silva, Vieira, and then Bergkamp, technically, because he was dropping in as the 10. So yeah. Mohammed says Zuby class today. Wow. Jordan Hill says I like the vision though. Rainmaker says we are dream chasing, but I'm here for it. Ma says or Lampard and Fabregas, please. Now let's stay. No, I don't want to envision that. You know, I get where you're going with it, but I don't want to envision that. This feels safer to me. Radiant says the irony of using Liverpool and Alonso, who is at Madrid. Johnny says, I guess that question is just not meant to be answered. Mohammed says, thoughts on Rodrygo news. We had just kind of went over it, but my thoughts are just kind of, make it happen. If, there's any opportunity to make it happen, you make it happen. You offer him the 10 shirt, you offer him 300,000 pounds a week. You tell him you're going to build the team around him. It's going to be you and Saka. You guys are going to be the new duo, doing your thing, all that kind of stuff, you must. I think that in terms of validity and, is this going to happen? I just feel like, somebody like Hand of Arsenal, I know he's technically an in the know, but he's just not somebody that tends to put his neck out on things that he doesn't feel are reliable. He didn't say we're getting him. He didn't say that, it's a one horse race or anything, but, he did say that he's our number one option and we've already spoken to him and some of our players have spoken to him. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of my thoughts. Make it happen. Why not? We'll go a little while longer. I have a meeting in like 45 minutes, so we can keep going. There's 1,100 of you guys watching on multiple platforms, so make sure you guys like and subscribe. Aha says the 11 should probably be a 4-2-3-1. And then looks decent. Zuby Rice should be helping provide the platform for the attacking players to do their thing and allow MLS to continue to be a maverick. I like that. MA says, looks like Barca are going to dominate Madrid for the next 5 years to me. John says, I just can't wait for when Rodrygo drops to the right at times will be unpredictable. Dio says, one man sources say the number one option is Sesko. Another says Gyökeres, another Rodrygo, another Zubimendi. I mean, not necessarily. I feel like it's not all over the place we know we're getting Zubimendi. Sesko, pretty much, unless something drastic changes, I do feel like the Sesko thing is the one that we're going for, even if we haven't had like a here we go or anything like that. Now, the confusion around the left wing, I don't know like what the vibe is on it. I don't know what the money is looking like, that kind of stuff, but we have to get a left wing. So, yeah. And I mean, you don't know, but if you don't know, that's fine. But I really don't think so many reputable journalists would put their neck on the line for something that's not done. Pretty much the only thing that's standing in the way is a medical, and we're only trying to make sure that the signing goes into another accounting year. So, yeah. Burmy says, let's not drag this out, get it done and make it fast. Keenan says 67 million is a very good fee for a player of Rodrygo's quality. Kimberly says, is Trossi staying? I have no idea. I don't know what's going on with Trossi, what's going on with Martinelli. All I know is that regardless of their futures at the club, there needs to be another left wing coming in. We need to upgrade. We must. So, yeah, 67 million, I do agree, is a very good fee for a player of his quality. Um, and I've seen multiple people that are very invested in Brazil, um, in particular, say that Rodrigo 100% needs somewhere to go where he's going to be the number one option. Somewhere where he's going to be the focal point. And at Real Madrid, he's like kind of like a piece of the puzzle, but he's not really prioritized at all. He's not playing in his right position. He's kind of just like almost like an afterthought. And somebody with his level of talent needs to be brought to the forefront. And so he can do that at Arsenal. That left wing position is just open, for him, to be honest. So yeah, if it's something that can happen, we need to push for it, 110%. So Ellie says it's refreshing to be linked to top players, not the Buendias and Carrascos of the world. Radiant and Dyer says the most breadcrumbed fan base in the history. Bossard, Johnny D says, Bossard, I love on the bench, hate as a start. Havertz, hate 10 times more start. I guess I can tolerate on the bench barely. John says, MLS Rodrygo link up is looking good already. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's just we know that we're interested in him in some capacity. Whether or not we get it done is, another thing. But I'm definitely on it. Like if that's what we could, yeah, if that's um if that's an option, I'm taking that first, and then go down the list from there. We got a good look at Nico Williams today, which I think was a good thing because kind of tired of talking about Nico Williams like he's some sort of pauper. It's just so strange. Like I just do not understand how people do not see that that is an upgrade from Martinelli. I know that Martinelli scored 15 goals one season, but them's the old days. You know, you know what they say about the old days. He's just we need more. Osanuga says we think Liverpool, Chelsea, and City going to let us get Rodrygo. Not let us get, but we need to be in the conversation. Kimberly says Arsenal don't disappoint us. Don't disappoint Rice and us. Right. Blaze says people need to relax. Subamidi will come to Arsenal. I understand we are frustrated, but there's no need to panic unless someone like McBell or Ornstein say the deal is collapsing. Keenan says Rodrygo, Havertz, Saka will ball out. Havertz has intelligent movement. Rodrygo can work off of his movements to create tons of shots. I don't know. I'm looking forward to Sesko, but I get it. It will be Havertz. I just gotta grin and bear it through however long it's gonna be until Sesko or whatever striker we get is starting. I'm just never gonna. I just don't think I'm ever gonna see what he brings. I don't see it. So yeah, Abdo says MLS Rodrygo duo will be unstoppable, but I can't allow myself to dream. I know Arsenal. Yeah, I think. Listen, dream as much as you want to dream. If you don't want to dream, that's fine. But that's what's out there, and at the very like core of it is even if you don't believe hand of Arsenal, which is fine, it's not like we haven't been linked to him during this window. So it's not like there's no interest. So I get that Arsenal let us down so much that it's like, everything that comes out is probably a lie. But, I'm just giving you guys the information that's out there. You can dream if you want to, or you cannot if you don't want to. It's totally up to you. It's totally fine. John says, if there's one thing I give Havertz, it's his movements. O'Malley says, Jess Sane or Coman as a backup for Saka, aka fourth wing option. It's got to be Sane. Like that Coman guy is also, he's got a strange case. Why is he around? Kimberly says Havertz starting in 2025, 2026. No, he's going to be starting. We know it. He loves him. I don't know why he does, but he does. Johnny says, so if we get Rodrygo, is it again Arsenal, no title chances, Jess? I mean, we have a lot better chance of winning the league with two like really top quality attackers than we do with one, So yes, I still have to see how we play. I think Rodrygo poses an interesting tactical problem for Arteta because he can't play him like he was playing Martinelli. Even Martinelli doesn't suit the way that Arteta had it set up, does he? They both are better central. I think for Martinelli, it's more about arriving in the box for a one-touch finish, where for Rodrygo, it's more about operating in the 10 position, or getting into areas where he can support his teammates and create chances for them. He can beat his man and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, listen, it's it's more interesting to me from like okay, Arteta, if you get this player and you spend this amount and you convince him to come, are you gonna, leave him out there to dry on the touch line, or are you gonna create a system that allows for him to come central so that he can do the best that he can do, you know? Um, so yeah, it all depends. Wayne says, come on, got a weird case. Why is he around? He does. Like, come on. Jay says, if Rodrygo leaves Madrid, he will probably end up at Chelsea. O'Malley says Rodrygo will make the tactic shift. They have to, or that's a pure waste of money. Arteta did bring Rice for 100 million, and we know what he's done with him. So yeah. Johnny says, no chance small club Chelsea gets him over Arsenal. We at least have to be in the conversation. If he chooses a different club, that's a completely different conversation than just letting them have him. We can't control what players do. I think to a certain extent, I do think it's a little silly to get upset if a player just chooses the other club. If we offer them the money and we offer them London and we offer them Arsenal and then they choose to go Chelsea, and then they just chose to go Chelsea. But if we don't even try, that would piss me off. Why are we all doing the same thing? We are so funny. But yeah, if we just have to at least be in the conversation. That's it. Nicholas says Gyökeres, Sesko, get either one or both, or Alvarez. Fabrizio says Sesko or Gyökeres. I don't care who. I'm happy with either or. Burmy says getting more attacking players should be complemented by a more tactical attacking approach, which hopefully it does. Kimberly says, I hope Arteta lets go of the reins a little more next season. This rigid control helps no one. It's just death. It's death. Like, you cannot, I just want to see free flowing, fun football a little bit. I guess you could do that with Havertz. So I don't know. It's just all up to Mikel. He has to come to the team that beat him and not by a small margin. Rodrygo did nothing against us. Neither did Gyökeres, but people still want him at the club. What does that mean? Do you know how many players do nothing against us? So many. Desiree Doué was absolutely like a menace to society against Inter, but I can't remember a single thing he did against us. But we know that guy is a G. Gyökeres did fuck all against Saliba and Gabriel. People still want him at the club. I don't think it matters. I really don't. We have the best defense in Europe, so if you can't do anything against Saliba, you can't do anything against Saliba and Gabriel, but that doesn't mean you can't cook everybody else. I don't care about that. Let's see. Johnny says, free-flowing Havertz football. I am dying. Kimberly says, Isak is not coming. That's a pipe dream. He's definitely not. Gunnarola says, my delusional summer dream is coming along. Rodrygo, Isak, Saka, front three loading. John says, Gyökeres spun Saliba, to be honest. He did one thing, you guys. Like, the overwhelming conversation after the game is that he didn't really have much, and then Gyökeres had one opportunity. Exactly, just one opportunity. That's pretty much it. That's all he had. So, yeah. Keenan says Rice and Odegaard just aren't the most free flowing attacking mids. I think bringing in a Kudus Eze or Rogers as a super sub to mix up our midfield attack would be at massive dividends. I just don't see us after getting like a Rodrygo type of player going in there and getting another midfielder. Now, I would love that. That would be amazing, but they are going to consider Max and Ethan as much as people don't want to hear that. It's just the truth. And Arteta does view the likes of Marino and Kai Havertz as options for left center mid. And so when you have Max and Ethan and also Marino and Kai Havertz, I think they'll look at those four options and say they have more than enough depth in midfield. Now, I don't really love that, and I would love for us to bring somebody in. I just don't think we will. I think when you look at the money invested potentially for a Sesko, Zubamendi, Rodrygo Summer, that's like 200 million already. I don't see them adding like a 68 million for Eze or an 80 million plus for Morgan Rogers. I think that's a little bit more than what we think, we're going to spend. So, yeah. Blaze says Jokeris spun Saliba only one time, not twice. That's what I'm saying. I mean, people are being disingenuous now, like, oh, Rodrygo didn't do anything against us. Well, Jokeris really didn't do anything either. He had one chance, and there was actually when I think Kivior was back there too. Like, it wasn't even Gabriel. It was Saliba and Kivior. Like, Gabriel came off because he tweaked his knee or some shit like that. And he spun him then. Like, let's not be disingenuous. Abdo says Odegaard should be a sub. The problem is the massive wages for these players. I don't know if Arteta's starting Odegaard because of his high wages. It's just he's the captain, so yeah. Keenan says, I love Winieri, but he's a very similar profile to Odegaard. We need something a little bit different. I mean, how is he similar? People were saying that he was totally different than Odegaard, so I don't know. I don't know about that. But I also feel like they are kind of different because Winieri is more of like a goal scorer and Odegaard wants to pick the pass before the pass. So I think they're similar in the fact that they're left-footed, you know, and they cut in and kind of operate in the same positions. But I think just if we give up on this idea of not attacking the central areas, then we'd feel differently. It's by design. You go back and look at the 2022-2023 season, it wasn't like we weren't accessing central spaces. We have decided tactically that we're not going to get into central areas. We kind of build up on the wings to keep other teams from being able to hurt us with the ball down the center. So I think if we just play with a number 10 and whoever that is gets the freedom, we'll play a lot better. Jay says, Jess, would you be happy with Sesko? If this is the situation that we have going, yes. I think Rodrygo Sesko makes a lot of sense to me. Fabrizio says, if we sign Rodrygo, I'm not looking forward to the cringe AFTV music video coming out. Oh my gosh, kill me. Keenan says, Winieri and Odegaard have very similar movements and patterns of play when in attacking mid-roll. Ethan obviously has a nice curler in his locker. I'd like to see us play with a 10 and allow whoever that's playing in the 10 to have freedom. I think that would help us a lot more than having like Rice so high and Odegaard off on the side. Like whoever it is, whether it's Ethan or Odegaard or whoever playing in the 10, if they were more central and had more access to central areas, I think that would help us out. Shamara says, according to Ben Jacobs, Chelsea are focusing on Gittins over Rodrygo. He's usually reliable for Chelsea news. Keep it that way. If Winieri bulks up, he will thrive in central areas. Give him preseason to prove himself. He may be Morgan Rogers too. I don't know if he'll be Morgan Rogers because he doesn't have that engine or like that, he doesn't have that bully build, kind of thing. But I do think because Ethan had like a more tame end of the season, he's kind of been written off in a certain way. Like I think when he first broke into the team, people were really desperate to see him, and then he kind of fell away. So it's like, okay, well, we need something different. But I do think Ethan and Max are going to get. You guys see I'm streaming, right? You guys are so cute. I do think that they'll give them the time to develop in this season, and we'll see where they are. But I think people are I'm not saying people are being harsh on Ethan, but I do sense like a less enthusiasm around him than there was before. I think there was like a reality check that no, he's probably not in a position to just take somebody's starting position. Um, and they want somebody to take Odegaard's position. It's probably not going to happen. But um, Ethan is more than good enough to play a pretty big role next season. I just think he needs to get up the stamina more than anything. And we'll just see, how it unfolds. O'Malley says Wanyeri is not similar to Odegaard. Um, I do agree with what Keenan is saying about similar movements, but Ethan to me is more of a goal scorer, and Odegaard is somebody to me that likes to be the pass before the pass. Johan says, Jess, did you give up on Kudus? Yes, I have. If we're going to spend 80 million on a player, it can't be on him. I think it needs to be on somebody else. I just, out of all the players that you can get to play like that more, what is the word? That more versatile attacking mid role, I think I would prefer Eze. I would prefer Rogers. Something about not that I think West Ham had a big influence on him kind of falling down and his stocks kind of going down. But I think we could do more with the money. Also, he was just a much better acquisition with at 40 million or whatever from Ajax than he is now at West Ham. I don't think he's like an 85 million pound player. I really don't. Doué definitely cooked in the first leg. Sure, fine. I do think MLS pretty much clamped him, but fair enough. He cooked. Yeah. Um, Abdo says Arteta's system is not working for Ethan. I don't blame the kid. He is very talented and he can show off his talent, which is frustrating. How come that doesn't apply to everybody though? I feel like Arteta's system doesn't really platform any of our players well, to be honest. Our attackers, except for maybe Havertz and Saka, do well, but I think almost everybody else is in positions on a consistent basis that don't suit their main qualities. So I don't even know if it's just an Ethan thing. I think in general, Arteta system is not great for attackers. Kudus is a baller. I'm not saying he's not a baller, but 85 million for him is kind of just ridiculous. When we could have got him for 40 million, no, come on. Jess, would you take Watkins if it meant us signing Rodrygo? I don't think that signing a more expensive striker should mean we can't sign Rodrygo. We were promised a big window. You didn't spend anything last summer. You made money last summer net spend. So why would I have to take Watkins as our number one striker to get a player that we should be able to acquire, even if we get a big name striker? I don't want to have to choose. I don't think we should have to choose. They quite literally threw away a season by not getting anybody. So I expect us to be able to get the striker that we want to get. If that's Sesko and he costs 80 million, that's fine. But you should still be able to get Rodrygo. You spent nothing, you spent nothing. So yeah. Watkins, no thanks. That is a January, panic buy, but not somebody that we should be looking to lead the line for Arsenal next season. Johnny says he can show he's talented at under 21, not the same. I don't know who we're talking about here. Would I keep Kivior? Yeah, I think I would at this stage. If you're not receiving a decent enough bid for him and it means that all the money is going towards attack, then yes, I would keep Kivior. Buying a 50 million pound backup doesn't sound great when you need attackers. So yeah, I would keep Kivior at this stage. Blaze says Wanyeri is 17 years old. He just needs time to improve. I think it's hard for maybe people to accept that he's just a kid. And despite the high hopes that people have for them, it's like when the young players come into the team, they have a lot of hype around them. I think the reality of a young player is still maybe a little bit lost on people, that you're going to see them have bad games. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that they're going through the peaks and valleys of being a young player, learning how to play men's football. And I think Ethan struggled with that a little bit more than MLS. And so it's the system, and he's not playing his right position and he's being stunted, and he's probably just a young player that needs time. Word is our Kudus bid is 50 million. We're not getting no damn Kudus. Come on. We're not getting no Kudus. Who are you finding this information from? Burmy says AFC deserve another elite signing like Rice. Not having a proper center forward for 5 years and 2 mediocre left wings should warrant getting a top-notch players to replenish the squad. That's why I'm like, to be honest, um, I'm not hearing all this like getting a cheap ass striker to get somebody else. No. John says Shirky, Holland, along with Marmoush will cook. Johnny says everyone would keep Kivior unless they feel bad for him not starting. Um, and World Boss says, Jess, I like the look of that team there. It's a good team, you know. Jay says Watkins is the third best center forward in the league, in my opinion. Pity about his age, though. Oh, that's fair enough. If you think he's the third best, that's cool. DK says we expect to win the league with guys like Watkins. When Yuri's 18, get Hato. Why some Arsenal fans are obsessed so much with Watkins? I don't think we would pay more than 50 million for a 29-year-old. I mean, I just don't see him as he's just not somebody I'm like I would be desperate for. But you know, I think there are a lot of fans that are like really like these types of players, and I respect Watkins. I think he's good, and I would have taken him in January because we were definitely desperate. That's not to say that he's not good, but I feel like we're more desperate. But I think like this like obsession with the British players in the league, or the players that are like more they have to explain why they're good instead of us being able to just see it. And then it's like then everybody wants these players. I feel like it's strange. Like somebody like that would be like Semenyo. You know, you're trying to convince me that this player is good, and like look at him, he's 2-footed, and but you don't even believe he would start. You know, and I just why would we want a player in our team that we're not sure that he's going to start? He's not good enough. You know, I don't think he's better than Matoma. You know, and Matoma's somebody that a lot of Arsenal fans would turn their nose up at. Like no, you know, so no Semenyos, no Gordons, no Watkins. You know, I don't want to have I don't want you to have to convince me, you know, that this player would be good because of blankety blank. Honestly, I think El Canus could be the right midfield option. I do too. I do too. I actually really think that that would be a bad, like not a bad mistake. Like we wouldn't like rue it to the day we die or whatever, but allowing a player that I feel like suits us so well in the 8-10 role, that's Premier League proven, young and cheap, you know, I feel like 20 million on him and just to backfill that creative midfield position would be really good for us. He is naturally a 10. However, he was forced to develop his transition and defensive work rates at Leicester, which is also why like I don't see why we wouldn't go for him, because I feel like one of Arteta's bigger concerns about attack-minded players is that they don't they don't have the defensive work rate. But when you watch El Canus like comps, there's so much defensive work in there, and it doesn't take away from his creativeness, and you can see it even in a bad team like Leicester. I agree with you 110% that that would be a player that if we're looking to do like a cheaper kind of, you know, deal. Obviously, the cheap deal that you'd want to do is Shirky, but if you can't do that, then El Canus is right there. Let's see. Aha Aha says Watkins has 4 GA in 11 more games than Isak in the last 2 Premier League seasons. Pretty close if we're just looking at GA. I think Watkins is a good player. I think we either need to be going for the guy, or we need to be going for the guy that's going to become the guy. I don't think he fills either one of those for us. I think he's kind of the older guy that you have in your team, but you have the guy. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. He just feels like not the guy for us. After waiting this long for him is just doesn't make sense to me, but that's just me. Let me just check this because I know I have a meeting in like 20 minutes. Still working. Slow down. I just want to get to know you. Okay. Kwame says, We have now allowed Gyökeres to join Manchester United, an absolute joke. I mean, is he there? Is he going? I mean, I saw things earlier about it, so I figure they will get him. Um, right? So, um, we chose Sesko. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Um, yeah, I don't see anything about it, but I'm sure they might get him. Um, World Boss says, I just have a feeling that Sesko will work out for us if we get Sesko. I'm not really concerned about Sesko. I think he's good. Victor says, this team looks nice and all, but we'd need to get an overlapping left back if we want Rodrygo to succeed. In our current system, he'd be a bit better than Nelly. Like Nelly, Rodrygo needs to be closer to goal. If there was an overlapping fullback that you'd want to get, who would you get? Because that's not Hato. So, and that's pointed to somebody specifically in the chat is don't be talking about no overlapping fullback and you're talking about Hato. Mata says Kepa is pretty drama. Gotta be a great season. Abdo says Watkins is the same level as pre-injury Jesus, which is good, but not anything exceptional. Kwame says, goodness me, Sesko, we don't have a clue, man. You mean Benjamin Tesco? Now, taking mental notes because when he bangs and he scores some big goals for us and he's looking the part, I'm gonna remember these little comments, you know. Keenan says in the know saying Rodrygo is now likely to leave Real Madrid. Have any tier ones confirm this? Not yet. I guess we'll wait and see. Because somebody will either clear it up, like the likes of like Fabrizio will find out whether or not whether or not these things are true. If they're going around and you know, they're going around and they're pretty viral, they'll come out and say that none of it's true or refute it. Or they'll just let it go. And sometimes if they let it go, it's because either they don't have the information to deny it or they know it's true, so we will see. So yeah. Forget that thing, sign Hato, we win. Victor says Hato isn't winning us the league. Chill out with the glaze. I mean, Hato just, do we need more of this? Do we need more of the center back, fullback? Is that what we really need? Or, you know, can we move on? Because I'm kind of tired of it, but I think some of you guys want more. So yeah. Jordan says, what about getting, oh, sorry, guys. Half of my timeline is Love Island. Another part of it is Real Housewives and Survivor. And then another part of it is footy. So don't mind me. Jordan says, what about getting Julian Alvarez? He would be good for the team. I just think that it's going to be really difficult to get him out. He just got there, Let's see. Radiant Dyer says, Leon just agreed 35 million euro deal with City for Turkey. Here we go. Came out a while ago. Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of knew that he was going there. Blaze says Rodrygo will talk with Xabi Alonso. After that meeting, he will decide if he will stay or leave Madrid. So yeah, we'll know soon enough. We'll know what's going on. I don't think, we'll have to wait that long to know. So yeah. So yeah, Rodrygo will talk. Victor says Alvarez would probably be the best forward, but we can't get him. Yeah, I mean, if he was available and we can get him, bruh, it would just be so good. That would be the perfect, like him and Rodrygo would be perfect, but it is what it is. But you guys can come get me. If Sesko flops, y'all can come get me. That's fine. Like, then I got it wrong. Man, if Rodrygo is available, we got to drop the bag. He will be the one that got away. Yep. Um, we getting embarrassed by Zuby, and MLS is probably gonna run that position better than him this season. Pep is a greedy man. Next season, he will have jerky grinders. Sesko is not gonna flop bros. Javi, please reject him. Um, she knows Love Island. One of my other like main things that like anybody that really knows me knows this about me. I love reality TV. Like it is I could actually probably make a living creating content off of that because I know everything about every reality TV show. And no, it's not like a badge of honor or anything that you can like, being well versed in reality TV is not something to really brag about, but it is something that I like to partake in. Outside of that, I love reading like fantasy books. So, yeah, those are like the things I do when I'm not doing this. Um, let's see. Um, Horrible. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. I really like I have no shame in my game. Every reality TV show you can think of, Housewives, Survivor, Big Brother, Challenge, Traders, everything. I watch everything. Sorry. If it's my the one thing about me that you guys are like, "Oh, can't stand it." That and my grandma glasses. Fair enough. Keenan says Sesko isn't going to flop. He is already serviceable. The question is, will he hit the heights that our transfer team are projecting? Blaze says, I think all people love watching Love Island. A lot of people do love it, but they act like they don't. But I have no shame. Mata says, damn, Jess is a geek. I'm kind of half geek, half not. But I used to collect Pokemon cards when I was younger. So if that gives you any indication, yeah. I need to get into anime. I haven't gotten into it, but I know that that's something I would like. I just need to pry myself away from my reality TV. Um, Sesko is not going to need another season. He bangs immediately. Johnny says, You're like my mother, Jess. I mean, then I love your mom. DK says, Rodrygo is not that good. Guys are talking like he's the next Sanchez. Stop the hype. Prime Alexis would never let a 19-year-old shut him down in 2 whole games. Okay, he's not good. Jigun says, Books are great, but reality TV, it is what it is. Now you know more about me. Either you love me or you don't. Love is supposed to be unconditional. So you guys either love me or you don't with my reality TV fetish. Like, come on. Um, you are probably a big fan of Lord of the Ring books. Not even Lord of the Ring, like, well, yeah, Lord of the Ring is okay. Lord of the Rings is okay. But I read a lot of like romantasy and like all like the y'all don't want to know about that, but just fantasy books. Like it is what it is. Like I love it. Boy says, or not boy, Dio says, it would have been better if you still watch Pokemon than reality TV. Oh, I'm in it, guys. Seriously. Like I love it. Um, Joe says, I play Pokemon TCG. Marco says, I still play like Mario Party and Mario Kart and all that kind of stuff. I love those games. Just 1 minute, in 1 minute or less, tell us what the appeal of reality TV is. I don't get it. It's just, I like drama and I like mess. I like looking at people's lives and being like, damn, that's crazy. Like, I just like the messy part of it. So, yeah, it just takes me away from the dramas of my own life and I get to get submerged into other people's and just kind of judge them a little bit from afar, because one thing about me is I love a bit of gossip, I love a bit of drama, but not in my life. So that's pretty much what it is. Blaze says Rodrygo is not a bad player. Just because he wasn't good enough last season, it doesn't mean he's a bad player. Pokemon is absolute shit as anime. Good game though. Mommy says, Jess, who's your lineup for next season? I mean, if we get the players that we think we're gonna get, it's basically the one that we saw up there before. I think Rory had it up. I'll pull it up again for those of you guys who didn't see, but I really like that lineup. I don't know 100% if it's I'm not gonna be able to find his lineup. I don't have time for this shit. I'm not gonna look back at it, but this is yeah, Havertz in there probably instead of Sesko, but just for the sake of showing the new signings. But I think it's 100% good enough to beat City and Liverpool what they're cooking. I don't know. I think I still need another attacking mid maybe. Um, I do believe in Ethan. I think that he will add a lot, as a backup to Saka and Odegaard, to be honest, but we need somebody else. We know there's backup at DM, left wing, it is what it is, but that back line, I know what one thing I know about that is I know about it, so, um, yeah, I like it. Um, I like it. Um, is it giving second or third? Yeah, it's giving second or third, but it's better than what we've been looking at. So Keenan says if we get Eze or Simmons, it would take us over the top. We would be cooking. Yeah, I mean, either one of those I would definitely take. They can play instead of Odegaard, they can play instead of Rice or in that position as well. They can even pop up on the wings. That would be a perfect, perfect, perfect lineup if you had those players in there too. Um, Double says, "Is it the glasses? Um, don't take this the wrong way, but you look young. You're under 25." Yeah, of course. Like, I don't know what year I was born in, but I'm definitely under 25. So, yeah, it's probably the glasses. No, I'm just joking. I'm definitely way older than that, but it's probably just because my hair is natural and I have on glasses. Burmy says, "By the way, I liked your Serie A soap opera post." You get me. Like, I love drama. Like, I love it. Um, all the stuff happening in Serie A makes me want to choose a Serie A team to just follow so I can make sure I'm like invested in the drama. But I don't want to be shameless and pick one of the better teams. It has to be like one of the more not so good teams. So um, I'm trying to figure out what team I like in that league. But they got a lot of drama going on and it is juicy. I was like, damn. So even post the season, there's a bunch of drama. I love it. Double says Como with Sesk. Shamara says Como. Probably will end up being Como because I cannot choose like a big side because ultimately we really do fight up against the big sides. So in Champions League. So it has to be somebody outside of that and Sesk and all that. But Sesk was trying to jump ship. That was a part of the drama. Just like we know how he is jumping ship. He wanted to jump ship from Como and go to Inter. You just never change, like a leopard never changes his spots, does he? Johnny says, I agree. Those glasses look secretary mode. My granny, the lovely secretary, love it. You know what? I love you guys. So you guys call me a granny and stuff. That's cool. I'll take it. Spark and Source says, I honestly think we should try and buy Bruno Fernandes. I almost said something. You can't say this online. Let's just say no. I think he's good. I kind of respect him a little bit, but that Rata cannot play at Arsenal, bro. No way. There's just no way. They would never sell him to us either. So yeah. Marco says, Jess, I bet you the stream you do with your mom will be the most watched one right after we get Rodrygo. I want to get my mom on a stream so you just need to hear her talk about footy. Like she's so funny and she really does like she gets it. But if you think I say wild stuff, like nobody is funnier than my mom. She is cutthroat. Like if you had said, let's get Bruno Fernandes to her, oh my goodness. But she is kind of like an Arteta sexual. So I have to warn you on that. Places the way Jess said Fernandez. Yeah, it's like they're like, oh, Bruno Fernandes. And he's just gross. Like, no. Jay said, Jess, have you watched Mobland? I tried to watch an episode. I can't say that I necessarily felt like I would go back. But I do really like Yellowstone, Lioness, Yellowstone, and Landman are to me some of the best shows on TV, the best shows on Paramount. If you guys have Paramount or whatever channel you guys or whatever apps you guys have. If you don't watch Yellowstone, Landman, and Lioness, you should. Those are really, really good shows. Um, Bruno is gross. Ugh. Johnny says that Swording XG, that starting lineup on your screen, it fits. You do love fantasy books. Jokes aside, we would look serious. That's why it won't probably happen. Oh my gosh. Um, Saladin says, thoughts on Zubi against France. I thought he was really good. I thought it was a good chance to see what he looks like in a better side in the position that we know he would probably play for us. The line breaking pass for the Marino goal was really, really good. His like pass before the pass for Lamine Yamal's goal was also really good. So we got a good idea of what kind of player he is. He can break lines. He is vertical, but he also controls tempo. He's a lot more mobile than Georgie, and he has a good leap on him too. He's really good at, heading the ball out. He'll need some adaptation time to get used to, I think, the quickness of the Prem, but other than that, he's quality. He really is. He is quality. I thought he was really good. Burmy says Yellowstone and Lioness. Those are really good shows. Watch Landman. If you like Yellowstone, you need to be watching Landman. That is such a good show. It's at the same level as those two shows. Saida says, I still need to watch Yellowstone. That first episode was very long and I never went back to continue. Persist. Yellowstone is amazing. And also the spinoffs are like the preludes to those, like 1923 and 1880, whatever. Those are really good too. But they can get dark. So if you're kind of like somebody who wants to keep it lighter, just stick with Yellowstone. But if you're not afraid for stuff to be a little bit more, I would say the only way I can describe it is dark. 1923 and 1883 or something like that. Those preludes to it. Yeah, those are good. But listen, guys, I have a meeting now in like a minute, so I'm gonna go ahead and go. This was a lot of fun. Got 2 streams today, so we did really, really good today. Hopefully we get more concrete information on what's going on with hopefully Rodrygo Sesco and more. Hopefully we'll probably do a stream tomorrow, just in case people missed tonight's stream. We'll kind of like go over the stuff that we talked about today, and hopefully we'll have some new stuff around 6 p.m. your guys' time if you're in the UK. So yeah, look out for that. Make sure you like the video before you go out and subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.